Ever feel like you're part of something way bigger, like than yourself? Well, get ready because it's about to get real. We're diving deep into the ultimate family reunion, and I'm talking ancient genealogy here, folks.
Right.
The good stuff, hidden right there in the book of Foreign Chronicles.
That's right. We asked you to send us chapters 1 through 3. And let me tell you, this isn't just some dusty old list of so-and-so begat so-and-so.
Well,
Oh, no, this is about uncovering the real stories, the power struggles, the maybe a few scandals too. Who knows? The stuff that shaped the world you and I came from. Buckle up.
okay, so quick recap for anyone just tuning in. 1 Chronicles, part of the Old Testament,
Right.
right? Basically, it's like the historical record for the Israelites, but instead of boring old dates, it's packed with family trees, epic tales, think Game of Thrones, but with, less dragons, maybe.
More importantly, it's personal.
Exactly. We're going way back, like all the way back to Adam, the OG ancestor himself, and we're following those tangled branches, twists and turns through time to see where you, our listeners, fit in. Ready to connect those dots? I know I am.
It's easy for us to sit here in the 21st century and think of these genealogies as, I don't know, just some ancient form of record keeping. Like, oh yeah, they wrote down who their grandpa was. Big deal, right? But it was so much more than that back then. This was everything.
Everything.
Everything. Imagine a world where your claim to land, your inheritance, even just your social standing, it all hinged on proving exactly who your great-great-great and so on grandfather was. These records, meticulously kept, they were the law of the land. No birth certificate, no problem, just got to find your name in First Chronicles.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Genesis, as they say. First Chronicles 1, verse 1. Get ready for it. Here it comes. Adam, Seth, Enosh. Now, that's what I call a family tree with some history.
Talk about going way back.
We're talking the foundation of everything, right? The lineage that leads from Adam to Noah, Ark, flood, the whole shebang, and eventually to a pretty pivotal figure in your own family history. Say hello to Abraham.
And this is important because it's not just about who came after whom. No, no, no. This is about the stories, the dramas that unfolded along the way. Each name, each generation has a story.
Okay, spill the tea. Give us an example.
Let's take Nimrod, for instance. He's mentioned back in verse 10 as a mighty one on earth.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds great, but what does that even mean? Was this guy a king? A warrior? Some say he was the brains behind the Tower of Babel. Talk about an overachiever.
Whoa, hold on. Building a tower to reach the heavens? That's not exactly thinking small. That's some serious ambition right there.
Exactly. And think about it. We only get this tiny glimpse of him here in First Chronicles. Just a name, a description. But it makes you wonder, what kind of a legacy did this guy leave behind? What did it take back then to be considered mighty? Really makes you think about the impact one person can have, even if their story is only told in whispers.
Okay, so we've got this grand lineage unfolding, branches everywhere, right? But then First Chronicles, it throws us a curveball. Got to keep us on our toes. Verse 12, it mentions the Philistines, those guys, Goliath, anyone. And it traces them back to Mizraim, a descendant of Ham. Remember Noah's sons. It's like this family tree just got a whole lot more, complicated.
And interesting, right? Because we're not just looking at individual family lines here. No, we're talking about the origins of entire nations. And you know who else constantly seemed to butt heads throughout history? The Philistines and the Israelites. Makes you wonder if some of that tension, that rivalry, maybe it stemmed from this ancient family tie. History is never simple, is it?
And just when you thought we were done with the big picture stuff, we hit verse 19 and boom, division of the earth during Peleg's time. Now, what in the world could cause such a monumental, shift? We're talking continents potentially splitting, languages changing, the entire world as they knew it getting rearranged.
And that's what I love about these genealogies. They're not just family trees. No, they're timelines, interwoven with major historical events, the stuff that shaped the world we know today. I mean, think about it.
It's like we're following this trail of breadcrumbs, each one leading us closer and closer to understanding the forces that brought your ancestors together. And hey, sometimes tore them apart, let's be real. But for now, we're going to hit the zoom button, focus in on one branch of this massive, sprawling family tree, the line of Abraham.
And trust me, this is where things start to get juicy. We're about to encounter love, rivalry, maybe even a few family secrets along the way. Stay tuned.
We're back, folks. Still knee-deep in your family history here on the Deep Dive. And we're digging into the lineage of, let's just say it Abraham. Talk about a patriarch, right? Well, as we checked, we're getting into his sons. And First Chronicles chapter 1, it wastes no time, just dives right into listing out those descendants through Ishmael, through Keturah, names upon names. But before we get totally lost in the weeds here, so-and-so beget so-and-so. We got to drill. We got to talk about a topic that, well, might raise a few eyebrows these days.
You're talking about concubines, right?
Bingo! Not exactly your typical dinner table conversation, I'll grant you that. But hey, it was a fact of life back in ancient Israelite society, and First Chronicles doesn't shy away from it. So for those of us who, don't have ancient social customs on our bookshelf, what's the deal with concubines? Give us the lowdown.
Well, think of it this way. A concubine, she had a recognized position in the household, sure, but definitely secondary to the wife.
Yeah.
A man could have, well, multiple concubines, but only one wife at a time. And those kids, the wife's kids, they got the inheritance, the prime spot.
So it's not just about, romance then. We're talking power, legacy, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, absolutely. And you can imagine how that dynamic played out, right?
Yeah.
All those different branches of the family, inheritance at stake. I mean, talk about potential for some serious drama. Makes you wonder who got along with who.
Right. This isn't your grandma's China we're talking about. This is land, social standing, maybe even who gets to call the shots over entire tribes. It's high-stakes genealogy here, folks.
And these weren't just little family spats either. Sometimes those power struggles, they spilled out onto a much larger stage. Think Jacob and Esau, or those stories about Joseph and his brothers talk about sibling rivalry. We're talking family feuds erupting into full-blown wars between nations.
Okay, so we've got drama, intrigue, the whole shebang. But let's not lose the plot here. We've talked Ishmael, we've talked Keturah, both sons of Abraham. But the line we're really after, the one that leads to you, dear listener, goes through Isaac and his son Esau. And this, my friends, is where things get really interesting because First Chronicles gives us this incredibly detailed account of Esau's descendants, the Edomites. You've heard of them.
And I bet you're thinking, why should I care about Esau's kids? They're like distant cousins at best, right?
Right.
But hold on, the Edomites, they weren't just some random relatives hanging out on the family tree. No, these guys, they were major players in the whole Israelite saga. Big time.
Wait, seriously, these guys weren't just wandering around the desert somewhere.
Not even close. In fact, get this, they had kings, they had kingdoms.
Yeah.
Before the Israelites even did. First Chronicles lays it all out for us. Even lists their kings, check it out, chapter 1, verses 43 through 51. These guys were a force to be reckoned with. Not your average cousins, that's for sure.
It's amazing, isn't it? One book, crammed with so much history. It's like we're pulling back the curtain on this whole hidden world. Every verse, every name, just another layer of complexity. Love it.
It is, isn't it? History is rarely straightforward, that's for sure. Full of twists and turns, unexpected connections, everyone's story intertwined, even way back then.
Tell me about it. So where do we go from here? We're on the edge of our seats.
Well, we've explored Esau's branch of the family tree, but remember, Isaac had another son. That's right, Jacob, also known as Israel, the one and only.
Oh, yeah. The 12 tribes of Israel, that's right. So we're about to meet the rest of Jacob's sons. This is getting good.
Not quite yet. Remember, you, our faithful listener, you asked us to focus on one tribe in particular, the tribe of Judah.
Right, Judah, the tribe that gives us, wait for it, King David. And, well, according to Christian tradition, that's the line that eventually leads to Jesus. Talk about a legacy. But before we get to the A-listers, what makes Judah's line so special? Why all the attention?
Now, that is an excellent question, and one we are going to tackle head-on right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Back again. And we're keeping it in the family here on the deep dive. We've gone from Adam, yeah, that Adam, all the way to the tribe of Judah. Talk about a family reunion, huh?
And not just any tribe. This is Judah we're talking about. Kings, prophets, even if you follow Christian tradition, that is the Messiah himself.
No pressure, Judah. But seriously, before we get to the VIPs of the family, let's back it up for a second. First Chronicles chapter 2, it's laying it all out, Judah's descendants all in order, and then bam, verse 4, Tamar's name just pops up. And, well, if you know, you know. Let's just say it's not exactly a story for the faint of heart.
That's one way to put it. The story of Judah and Tamar, we'll spare you the details for now, but let's just say it's one of those biblical narratives that makes you wonder how they even got into those situations in the first place. But here's the thing, it's important. Why? It shows us that even the big names, the heroes of the faith, they weren't perfect. They were real people, flaws and all.
And let's be honest, those are the best stories anyway, right? A little bit of scandal, a little bit of intrigue, that's what keeps things interesting. But it also shows how these genealogies, they're not just some abstract list of names. No, they're tied to real lives, real experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the story of humanity right there in your family tree.
100%. And you never know, sometimes those stories, even the messy ones, they have a way of shaping everything that comes after. It's all connected.
Okay, so we've got drama, we've got intrigue, But chapter 2, it throws us another curveball. This time it's Caleb, remember him? One of the 12 spies sent into Canaan.
Ah, Caleb. Now, there was a stand-up guy. Unlike some of his buddies, he was all about trusting God, even when things looked bleak. And you know what? He was rewarded for it. His story, it becomes a bright spot in the whole Judah saga.
See? What did I tell you? Faith pays off. But gotta keep our eyes on the prize here, right? We're on the road to King David, people. First Chronicles chapter 2, it's like watching a hit TV show, meticulously connecting all the dots from Judah all the way down to David. You can practically hear that dramatic music swelling.
And what a story it is. I mean, we're talking David here, shepherd boy, giant slayer, king of Israel, legendary. But his story and the stories of his kids, they've got it all. Triumph, tragedy, the works.
Don't spoil it. Which, speaking of, brings us to First Chronicles chapter 3, the plot thickens. We're introduced to David's sons, including the most famous of them all, Solomon.
Ah, Solomon, wise beyond his years, builder of the first temple in Jerusalem. But even his story, it's not all sunshine and roses. He had his moments, let's just say.
Even the wisest can stumble, right? It's almost comforting in a way. But seriously, it's amazing to see how all these larger-than-life figures, they all fit on the same family tree. Kings, warriors, poets, Judah's line had it all. Talk about overachievers. But like any good drama, we gotta have some conflict, some shadows.
And here's where we meet names like Amnon and Absalom. Their stories, well, they're tough ones. Betrayal, ambition, heartbreak, the kind of stuff that reminds us, even when you're part of a family chosen by God, life can still throw you some serious curveballs. Power doesn't equal happiness, that's for sure.
It's true what they say, it's all relative. But even in the face of, well, let's face it, some pretty heavy stuff, First Chronicles chapter 3, it shows us that no matter what, family ties, they have a way of enduring. We see Solomon's line, it just keeps going generation after generation. Even when kingdoms crumble, empires fall, the family connection remains. Pretty powerful, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us to those final verses, chapter 3, the descendants of Jeconiah. Now, Jeconiah, he was taken captive to Babylon, and this marks a heartbreaking chapter for the Israelites, the Babylonian exile. Talk about a low point.
It's like witnessing this whole family scattered, their home gone, their future uncertain. Tough times. But even here, even in exile, First Chronicles offers a glimmer of hope. That lineage, it continues. Jeconiah's descendants, they're all listed out, a reminder that even in the darkest times, light always has a way of finding its way back in. There's always that promise of renewal, of starting over, of hope. It's a powerful message, and one that resonates even thousands of years later.
It does, doesn't it? And with that, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the book of First Chronicles. It's been a wild ride, hasn't it? From the Garden of Eden all the way to the reigns of kings, we've seen it all. Empires rise and fall, families endure, and the power of those ancient connections, well, they still resonate with us today. And to our listeners, remember, this is your story too. These are your ancestors, your heritage. Don't let the exploration end here. Keep digging, keep asking questions. You never know what you might discover.
That's right. Uncover those hidden branches, those forgotten stories, because they're all part of what makes you, you. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to Charlie and Mia's podcast. We're embarking on an exciting journey to read through the entire Bible in just 1 year. Every day, we dive into Scripture, exploring its meanings and how it applies to our lives today. We invite you to join us on this incredible adventure of learning and discovery. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode.